Welcome. If you're new to this channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Logan. This is Timeless Personal Growth and Development, and today we're talking about why it's so bloody important to be socially tactful. I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and they're talking about how social skills is everything in life. If you want to gain any kind of success in anything you want to do, or generally any kind of happiness and fulfillment in life, or any kind of pursuit of a goal and of an objective, it takes social skills, and that's the number one skill that you need to have is really good social skills. Think about it. When people want to build a business, they gotta do what? They gotta network. Networking takes what? It takes good social skills. You gotta be socially tactful to be able to network and be able to build a business, to be able to connect, be able to talk to people. If you're trying to build a business, you're trying to gain customers, you have to have good social skills, right? If you are a car salesman, for example, how are you going to be able to make that sale and earn that commission? What do you need to do? You need to talk. You need to connect. You got to be able to convince people to buy this car. Why should I buy this car? You need to have good social skills. You need to be socially tactful to be able to be a good car salesman. That's a good example. And I struggled with this when I was younger, maybe not having great social skills, being a naturally quiet, introverted person, but also kind of not valuing it. I'm a quiet, introverted person, so I just, I like being alone. I like solo activities. But as it turns out, as I grew, as I evolved, I like jobs and I like doing things that involve being around people. Yes, then I'm tired at the end of the day. I want my quiet, alone time, but any kind of enjoyment, any kind of fulfillment that I gained was because I was around a lot of people all day and I was building those social skills. And like I work with children, for example, be able to solve crises with children and be able to step in and solve those crises with children, it takes social skills and you gotta practice over and over again. So dealing with a crisis situation with a kid, and when you've done it a million times for years and years on end, it doesn't feel like anything anymore. It's nothing to me because I developed that skill. I developed that social skill. And it's difficult now because we've probably had maybe a last generation or two of people that have been raised behind a screen, and it's challenging. You hear a lot of talk about social anxiety. How people have a lot of social anxiety. Well, why do people have a lot of social anxiety? Because a lot of the time, why is because they're isolated. They don't have a lot of time. They don't spend a lot of time getting out there and actually talking to people because they spend so much time on their own actually having to develop that skill. And yes, socializing, interacting with other humans is a skill. It's like anything else. It's like learning to lift weights. It's like learning to read. It's like learning to walk when you're a baby. It's a skill that you have to develop. And now think about it. If you're a human being and let's say you've been isolated your entire life. You lived in a bunker your entire life and never learned how to interact with other people, maybe other than your parents, and then you get out into the world and you gotta go and interact with other people and go apply for a job and go to a job interview and work with other professionals and work with your colleagues and build connections. Like, you haven't developed that skill. It's like you don't know what to do, you don't know what to look for, you haven't been in enough social situations to know how to behave, know how to interact in those situations. Another example is relationships, is dating. A lot of people struggle with relationships and dating, and this is a good example. Listen to this one, is that to be able to solve conflict and solve problems in a relationship, or whether you're just casually dating someone, you got to be very socially tactful in those situations. You need to know how to generate a certain emotion from that man or that woman. And going up to a bar or into a club or into to someone, and you want to talk to them, you want to get to know them. Well, what's your end goal? Your goal is to sleep with them, right? So how do you do that? You got to be socially tactful by doing what? Engaging their emotions and seducing them and being somewhat manipulative. And I have a hard time saying that word. Manipulative is has a really negative tone to it sometimes. People take that from like a very negative term. It's not always negative. You guys think about it. When you're going to a job interview and you're being interviewed for a job, what are you doing to the interviewer, the employer who's asking you questions? In a way, you're manipulating them, are you? Yes, you're manipulating them to get them to want to hire you. You're selling yourself. It's a form of social tactics. It's a form of manipulation. Same thing as anything else. You gotta sell yourself. And that's not manipulation. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a social skill. Yes, manipulation, it's bad if it's used for the wrong reasons. And if it's used to hurt other people and only for your gain, then yes. It can be, yes, it's negative. But manipulation can be very useful as long as you're not hurting anybody in the process and you're trying to get what you want to get from someone. It can be very beneficial. Dating, applying for a job, going to job interviews, all that stuff is manipulation. And going back to what I was talking about earlier about being a car salesman, yes, that's a form of manipulation too. You're manipulating the customer to buy that car. You're using social tactics. You're being socially tactful to get that person to manipulate them to buy that car. And we do it all the time. Every day. Every day, in every single interaction that you were in, at least once, minimum once, you manipulated someone or attempted to manipulate someone. Whether you succeeded, whether you fail, doesn't really matter. But we all manipulate everybody. We all do it all the time. And sometimes we don't even know why we're doing it. Like, for example, I just started going to a boxing gym. You go to a boxing gym, you're working about with a bunch of other guys. It's a close group of guys and men and women. And you want to make a good impression on them, right? Well, how do you make a good impression? By being social, talking, asking questions, by manipulating them, using social tactics so they get a good impression of you. Job interviews, the same thing. Give the employer a good impression. Manipulation. Sell yourself. Why are you the best person for the job? Tell me why. Sell yourself. Manipulate them to get them to think you're the best asset for that job. Go over and talk to that man in the or woman in the bar. Talk to them. Manipulate them and give them a reason to see why they should go home with you tonight. Right? And it's the same thing when you're working in a classroom of children. It's the exact same thing. When you're the teacher, when you're in charge, you're using social tactics to manipulate the class and to earn that respect. So you have full control of your classroom so you can educate your kids, right? And same thing with parents. We all have our own idea of how we want to raise our children. We raise them by being socially tactful, by teaching them, by educating them. And in a certain way, it's manipulation. Because we want to raise them based on our views, our principles, our laws, our narratives. We want to raise them how we see fit. as us ourselves individuals to raise them. We want to raise them how we want. And as parents, you think that, well, my point of view is the best point of view of how to raise your children. Of course, they're your children. You're going to raise them however you think. And you do that by teaching them, educating them, mentoring them, guiding them, informing them, doing whatever you have to do to get them to follow your rules in your life and your boundaries, for example. And that takes a certain degree of, right back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this video, social tactics. And remember, it's everything. Social tactics, it's everywhere. I always have this conversation with a friend of mine, and we love being outside. We love being outdoors. And we love going to the cottage and be kind of having that moment of isolation away from people. We really enjoy that. And then we joke around, oh, wouldn't it be great to just have like a cabin in the Rockies by ourselves and just have a dog and just live there live the rest of our days in the Rockies, going out hunting every day with our dog. Wouldn't that be great? And I agree and I disagree. I agree in the sense, yes, that would be great, that would be fun, but for a short period of time, a little vacation, that'd be fine, that'd be great. But if you're living in isolation your whole life, no. You're a social being and you need to be around people, and you need to develop those people skills if you want to live a happy and fulfilled life and develop those social tactics. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you can like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Logan Ryder, Timeless Personal Growth and Development, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one.